Lesson 17. The aerobic energy systems. Aerobic glycolysis, fatty acid oxidation, and muscle fiber types. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to outline the characteristics of aerobic glycolysis, outline the characteristics of fatty acid oxidation, and identify the characteristics of slow and fast twitch muscle fibers. The anaerobic systems of energy production provide us with energy when we are working at high intensities. However, because these systems can only synthesize small amounts of ATP, they will only generate energy for up to 2 to 3 minutes. So, if we want to continue an activity beyond 2 to 3 minutes, the body needs to synthesize larger quantities of ATP, and it does this by using the aerobic energy systems. So the aerobic energy systems are the long-term energy systems, and they will provide us with energy beyond 2 to 3 minutes and up to several hours. The aerobic systems will only synthesize energy at low to moderate intensities. The sources of fuel used by the aerobic energy systems are glycogen from carbohydrate and fatty acids from fat. Glycogen requires less oxygen to be synthesized than fatty acids do. So as intensity increases, glycogen will be the preferred energy source. Fatty acids, on the other hand, then need lots of oxygen in order to be converted to ATP, so fatty acids tend to be the main fuel when intensities are low. Let's look at aerobic glycolysis first. This system will provide energy beyond 2 to 3 minutes and up to several hours at medium to low intensity. It will last for as long as the fuel lasts. Most of us have enough glycogen in our muscles to last about an hour. The well-trained athlete may be able to store twice that amount. In the presence of oxygen, one glucose molecule can yield 38 ATP units. The process of breaking down the glycogen molecule to create ATP is known as aerobic glycolysis, and this takes place in the mitochondria, which is a structure within the cell where energy is released. It is sometimes referred to as the powerhouse of the cell. During this process, carbon dioxide and water are produced as byproducts. Because glucose metabolism requires less oxygen than fatty acid metabolism, the body will use more glucose for energy production as exercise intensity increases. So to summarize, glucose plus oxygen will give us 38 ATP, and carbon dioxide, water and heat are produced as byproducts. The characteristics of aerobic glycolysis. It's aerobic, it uses oxygen. It's a relatively slow rate of ATP to production. The fuel source is blood glucose and glycogen plus oxygen. It's limited by the relatively slow delivery of oxygen to cells, so it can only provide energy for up to 60% of maximum efforts. It will release enough energy from one molecule of glycogen to resynthesize 38 ATP molecules. It will last as long as the fuel lasts. Eventually, the glycogen stores will run out. It predominates during activities of lower intensity and of greater than 3 minutes. The waste products are carbon dioxide, water and heat. Recovery time is however long it takes to replace fuel. If the glycogen stores were completely depleted, then they would have to be replaced, and this is achieved by taking in food. In order to replace the glycogen stores, the diet needs to contain adequate amounts of carbohydrate. This has to be digested and absorbed by the body and put back then into storage. This whole process could take up to 24 hours. This system is responsive to training in a number of ways. Firstly, an efficient cardiorespiratory system will improve the delivery of oxygen to the working muscles. In other words, if our heart and lungs are efficient, they will be able to bring oxygen to the working muscles more easily. The well-trained endurance athlete will burn a greater percentage of fat, so that they will be able to spare their valuable glycogen stores. This means that when they want to increase their pace, they'll be able to call on those stores of glycogen, which will then allow them to work at a higher intensity. The skill of the endurance athlete is to be able to judge precisely the point where additional energy from anaerobic processes are required so that they can work just below this threshold. By doing this, they can work at the highest possible speed, but still avoid the buildup of lactic acid, which would impair their performance. The second aerobic energy system is fatty acid oxidation. Fatty acids are the main source of fuel during exercise of long duration and low intensity. One fatty acid molecule can produce 100 ATP units. Again, as with aerobic glycolysis, waste products are carbon dioxide and water. So fatty acids plus oxygen gives us 100 ATP plus carbon dioxide plus water, and heat is also given off. The characteristics of fatty acid oxidation. It's aerobic. Large amounts of oxygen are required. The fuel source is fatty acids plus oxygen. It will release enough energy from one molecule of fatty acid to resynthesize 100 ATP molecules. It's a slow rate of ATP production, as it's limited by the relatively slow delivery of oxygen to the cells, so it can only provide energy at low intensities, up to 60% of maximum effort. Duration, it can last up to several hours. To give you an idea of how much energy is stored in fat, 1 gram of fat will give us 9 calories. 1 pound of fat will give us 3,600 calories. On average, we use 100 calories when we run a mile at a moderate intensity. So this will give you an idea of the amount of energy that we have stored in the body in the form of fat. The waste products are carbon dioxide, water and heat. And the recovery time is again however long it takes to replace the fuel. So this could be up to 24 hours. When we are at rest, fats are the predominant fuel that we are using. When we start to exercise, creatine phosphate and glycogen will always be the first energy stores to be used. It takes approximately 20 minutes from the start of exercise for the body to begin to burn fat, and that is provided that the intensity is low. If the intensity remained high, the body would continue to burn glycogen. All of the energy systems are available to us all of the time, and we are constantly switching from one system to another. But in most cases, 1 or 2 energy systems will predominate, and this will depend on the intensity of the activity, the duration, and the fitness level of the individual. To give you an idea of the different systems that are active during particular activities, take a look at this chart. You will notice that the activities that are predominantly aerobic, such as the 1500 meter swim or the 1500 meter run, are continuous activities. And then activities which are a one-off effort, such as a golf swing, a dive, or something that doesn't last for very long, such as the 50 meter swim, they are predominantly phosphagen. But even activities then like basketball or tennis or volleyball, which all last longer than 2 to 3 minutes, they're predominantly phosphagen as well. And that's because the activities involved in those sports are what we call stop-go activities. So, for example, within a tennis game, you have a series of serves, of sprints and returns, and these all require maximum effort. So therefore the phosphagen system would be the predominant system in those activities. So now I would like you to pause here for a moment and click on the button below for a short video which reviews the aerobic energy systems. Another consideration that will influence the energy system that our bodies prefer to use is the type of muscle fibre that we have. There are two muscle fibre types, and they are fast twitch and slow twitch muscle fibres. The type of muscle fibre that we have is largely determined by genetics. There are no major differences between male and female when it comes to different fibre type distribution. And about 20% of the muscle fibres that we have are neither true fast nor true slow twitch fibres. They have the characteristics of both fibre types, so they can actually be adapted with training. However, if you have true fast twitch fibres, endurance training will not cause them to become slow twitch. And vice versa, if you happen to have slow twitch muscle fibres, speed or power training will not make them become fast twitch fibres. The characteristics of the two fibre types are outlined here. Slow twitch have a slower contraction. They have high aerobic capacity. This means that their preferred energy systems are the aerobic energy systems. They have more mitochondria, and this is what makes them more efficient at using the aerobic energy systems, because the mitochondria is where the glycogen and fatty acids are broken down and converted into energy. They're fatigue resistant, they don't tire. They're smaller in cross-section. If you were to take one single muscle fibre and cut it across the diameter and look at it under a microscope, you would find that it was quite small and quite narrow. These type of fibres, the slow twitch fibres, are in a high concentration in elite endurance athletes. The fast twitch, on the other hand, then, they contract faster. They prefer the phosphagen and the anaerobic glycolysis energy systems. They have fewer mitochondria, they fatigue quickly, and these are larger in cross-section. There's a higher concentration of these muscle fibre types in elite power athletes. To test your knowledge of the aerobic energy systems and muscle fibre types, click on the button here for a quiz.